Welcome Year 5 to your maths lesson for Thursday the 28th of January. We'll start it again with some arithmetic questions. So here are 5 more questions for you to have a go at. Again, not too long. Don't spend too long on them. Try your best, see if you can get more than yesterday correct. And then that just means you're improving, which is all we're really looking for. So pause the video and have a go at these. Okay, and then here are the answers for you to check. All right, moving on to today's lesson then. So we are thinking about complements to 1. We're thinking about decimals that we can add together to make one whole. So let's say it would be a question like this one. So 0.45 add something makes one whole. What would I add to 0.45 to make one whole? Now you might already be able to answer that, but we're going to see if we can understand how and why we would add decimals to make one whole. So we're thinking about decimal numbers we can add together to make one. We're going to look at it in a few different ways. So the first one is looking at this 100 square. And to be able to work out the decimals that we're adding together to make one whole, we're going to need to think about what's already shaded, what isn't shaded. So the square represents one whole. We've got one square and it's been split into 100 parts, but there is one square that we're looking at here. And then if we think about how much is shaded, well, we've got one lot of 10, another lot of 10, and another lot of 10. So that is 3/10, or it's 30 hundredths, but we can think of it as 3/10 being shaded. So how many more would I need to shade in to make all of it shaded, to make one whole? So I'd need to shade in another 7/10. We would shade in another 7/10 and add that to the 3/10, make one whole. You can write that as a decimal number sentence. We've got 0.3 add 0.7 equals one whole, because that will make our 10/10, which we know is one whole. Another way of looking at it would be using part-whole models. So our whole is 1 in each of these, and we've got different parts. We can think about how we might use our number bonds to help us. Number bonds to 10, number bonds to 100, number bonds to 1,000. But we could also think of it as a subtraction as well, because whenever you've got a part-whole model, you've got the whole, you've got one of the parts, you subtract that one part from the whole to be able to find the other one. So if it were representing a bar model as well, you would think about it the same way. If you've got the top, you've got the whole, you would subtract one of the other parts to find out the missing value there. So we could solve it with subtraction. We could solve it using counting up, or we could solve it using our number bonds. So there's a few different ways we can think about it. So here I'm just thinking about my number bonds. So 0.4, I can add, I've got 4/10, so if I add another 6/10, that's going to give me 10/10, because I know 6 and 4 make 10. That would then equal my one whole. 0.4 add 0.6 equals 1. 0.44 add something equals 1. So again, I might think about my number bonds, or I could try it with a subtraction. So if I think about it as a subtraction over here, I've got 1 as a decimal, so 1.00. Take away 0.44 will give me what the missing value is here. So if I were to complete this subtraction, just means lots of exchanging, which isn't ideal, so there's more efficient ways of doing it. So I've got 10 take away 4 there, I've got 6, 9 take away 4, I've got 5, and then 0.0 take away 0, 0. So 0.56. Make sure the decimal point is really visible. Okay, and then we could do the third one as well, the same way. So I've got one whole, I need to find the missing part here. I've got 0.444. So if I take that away from the one whole, that's going to show me what the missing part is here. So again, I'm going to have to exchange all the way across this time. So 0, and then exchange it for tenths, and then exchange for hundredths, and exchange for thousandths. Then 10 take away 4, 6, 9 take away 4, 5 again, 9 take away 4, 5 again, and 0. You might start to notice a pattern here, 0.5, 5, 6 for that one, okay? So we could do it by subtraction, we could just do it by counting up. I know that to get from 4 thousandths up to the next one, I need to add on 4, but then I'd have an extra hundredth there as well, okay? So, could we do it just thinking about our number bonds? Some of them will be easier to do that than others. For example, I've got 0.2. What do I add to 0.2 to make 1? Well, if I think about my number bonds to 10, which number bond am I using? I'm thinking about my number bonds to 10 here. I've got tenths, so I'm thinking about my number bonds to 10. 2 and 8 make 10. So 2 tenths and 8 tenths will make 10 tenths, which is the same as 1 whole. So it's going to be 0.8. 0.75. So in this case, really, I'm using my number bonds to 100 because I know that 75 and 25 make 100. So 75 hundredths plus 25 hundredths would make 100 hundredths, which is the same as 1 whole. Remember that when the numerator and the denominator are the same, that is always equal to 1 whole, whether it's tenths, whether it's hundredths, whether it's thousandths, whatever fraction it is. When you get the numerator and the denominator the same, we've got 1 whole. Okay, so in this case, it would be 0.25. And then in this one, really I'm using my number bonds to 1,000, or I'm just counting up potentially. So to get from 550 thousandths, how do I then get that up to 1,000 thousandths? Well, it would be 50 to get up to 600, plus then another 400. So it would be 450, so 0.450. But I don't really need the zeros in this calculation to be able to make it efficient. Okay? Time for you to have a go. So using whichever method you prefer, so you could use subtraction, you could do it by counting up, you could try a number line like we did yesterday. If you're not sure, I'd recommend going with the subtraction route, doing the column subtraction, just because then that's a very regular way of you doing it. If you're comfortable with your number bonds and completing it mentally, counting up, that's fine too. But use the method which suits you best. So have a go at these questions, pause the video now, and we'll have a look at the answers afterwards. Okay, let's have a look at the first two and the answers to these ones as well. So hopefully you're able to identify with the bar models, you were trying to find that missing part like I talked about earlier that makes up the 1 whole. And in these cases, you had more than 2 decimals that you had to add together as well. So hopefully those were fine at the same time. Okay, and then your gold questions. So I think the answer is 0.777 because 0.3 add 0.7 is 1 whole. Which means he then thinks 0.03 add 0.07 is 0.1. And then 0.003 adds 0.007 equals 0.01. Do you agree with Tommy? Can you explain what his mistake was? I would suggest you work it out and then maybe have a think about what his mistake was. And then in this case, you're matching the pairs of decimals that add together to make 1 whole. So you could, again, use subtraction from 1 whole to work some of these out. Or you could think about it in terms of your number bonds and ones which you kind of think about mentally. So pause the video and have a go at these questions. And then here are your answers, if you can check and mark those. And then Platinum, maybe have a go at this one first, which again you're calculating trying to find the mistake, so calculate them and find the mistake. And then with this one it's a little bit more open, so you're trying to find a way through the puzzle, adding each number at a time to make a total of 1 to make your way through the puzzle to get to here. And then afterwards you could maybe have a go, if you're feeling up to it, have a go at making your own puzzle, which maybe someone else could have a go at, or you could show your own way through it. So pause the video and have a go at these questions. Okay. So in this one, he's used the number bonds to 10 in every column. So if you're using the number bonds, be careful not to make the same mistake. And the correct calculations would have been here. And then with this question, this was one way that you could get through the puzzle, but I believe there would be others as well. And hopefully you're able to have a go at making your own one. Okay, that's the end then. Thank you very much. I hope that hopefully that all went well, and I'll see you again next time.